On today's show, it is part 2 with myself and Glen Willis talking about all things Jalen Johnson, and it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland. This is going to be part 2 of 2 with myself and Glen Willis talking about Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. If you missed it, I recommend strongly beginning with part 1 of this conversation. So that should be available in this same podcast feed right now, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Overcast, YouTube, etc. Start there. And then when you're done with that, come back for part 2. If you already listened to part 1, I appreciate you listening to the podcast as always. And without any more delay, we'll dive right back in now with part 2 with myself and Glen on Jalen Johnson. All right, Glenn, let us go to the offensive side of the floor with Jalen Johnson. This is, of course, the glamour side of the floor for most players. I have given this stat many times this summer, but on the Jalen capsule, I have to give it. This is not only an offensive stat, because the rebounding that we talked about in the first part of this conversation is part of this. He was one of 5 players in the NBA last year to average at least 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Granted, he only played half the season. I get it. Yeah. But the only guys that did that, other than him, were Jokic, Giannis, Alperen Şengün, and Domantas Sabonis.
Good company.
Yeah, basically 4 guys who have been All-Stars and Jalen Johnson. And 2 of them are instant Hall of Famers if they retired today, and Giannis and Jokic, and then Jalen. So that's a good baseline to start off with, he's really good there too. I will also say, as we'll get into later, he is not a finished product on offense. He has some not huge weaknesses, but on his star trajectory, which is what he's going to be graded on from now on, basically, is he's got some stuff there. So let's start broad. What did you think about the way he played offensively last season, and also how it might be impacted with a different ecosystem this year? More shooting around him, for example, different center next to him, for example, et cetera. What are you kind of looking forward to broadly with Jalen this year on offense? And then we'll kind of dig in from there.
Yeah, it's interesting because they don't need him to run the offense. Luke Kennard can do that. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can be a supporting initiator, a secondary initiator on the floor, et cetera. And so that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that works. What's fascinating to me from last season up until the point he got hurt was I'm like, why are they not using him more in the short roll? Right? They had him when Trey was off. They had him on the ball, basically running the offense
a lot.
Right, and he's okay running a pick and roll. How many power forwards are high level running pick and roll? That's not normally a thing, right? Unless you're LeBron James, right? That's about the only one that you kind of think of there. But it was by necessity, they needed him to get those reps, and they wanted to put the ball in his hands to kind of see what he could do. Last year was really a season to kind of try to develop some of the younger guys, and that's one thing that they were doing to try to develop him. But after he went down, and then especially after the trade deadline, their screen game was a lot of Dyson screening and short rolling. And Dyson's great in the short roll, right? Onyeka, good hands, good feel, good processing, But Jalen is a really good passer on the move, has good feel, sees the floor. But they weren't steering as many opportunities for him to that. So that the one area I want to see is just let's just lean into his strengths more and get him in that short roll. But if you ask me, what is the one area of play that's probably going to determine whether he's an all-star at some point or not, it's just becoming a more consistent three-point shooter, right? And he's going to need to be 40%. That's probably never going to happen, right? But if he can get to 37%, from the three-point line, that's going to give him an extra 5 points a game, whatever number of points a game, right? In that sense, continue to generate points on the offensive glass, something he's pretty good at, and can be impactful there as well. But I'm really eager to see, with a set of veteran guards added to this roster, can they, I don't want to say simplify or narrow the number of things they're asking him to do, and to have those things align with his strengths, which is setting the screen, rolling to the nail, setting the screen, popping to the three-point line, taking a read, the defender's closing you, rotating towards you, reading that, making the right pass. Because I feel like that's where he's exceptional. Playing on the move, all that sort of stuff. It is going to be interesting to see if they run some 4 or 5 pick and roll, whether that's Porzingis popping in the 3-point line or Onyeka. And a lot of times they'll run that a little lower, like closer to the free throw line, right? But with Kennard on the floor, with Porzingis on the floor, maybe with Onyeka, that space that's going to be there, it's going to simplify Jalen's decision-making. Like last year, they didn't have enough shooting unless Niang was on the floor, and that gave you a little bit of that spacing kind of factor and dynamic. But just there's going to be more space, and I think it's going to simplify Jalen's reads. I love when they run the 4 or 5 pick and roll. He's good lob passer, all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's just going to be. I think they're going to be able to kind of. This is something that Quinn might be like, Glenn, you're wrong, and obviously I'm not going to argue with him, right? But it's one of those things where it just feels like this is going to let them just push him into his areas of strength. And for me, for a young player trying to kind of figure out how do I take the next step, sometimes simplifying things is a way to take a big step forward. And that's going to be interesting to see if that's what they choose to do with him this year.
I think you make a great point. Like it's also kind of what the team is dealing with on the whole, where this is the first time in Quinn's tenure where realistically is an important word, they are trying to do some stuff at a higher level, like winning wise.
Yes.
And I think that there is room for development still. Like this is not Nate McMillan where they're just going to stop trying to develop guys because they're trying to win. This is all joking aside about Nate. Like Quinn and Ansi, they're believers in development even when you're trying to win. So that's it doesn't just stop. But there is a little bit of a war there between like, okay, what's best for Jalen maybe as a growth thing and what's best for Jalen to help us win tonight. And it's not always different, but it's not always exactly the same, I would say, probably. There's an argument for him taking real reps as a primary creator.
Yep.
Is he particularly good at that right now? No. At least he wasn't last season. And I'll get into some numbers about that. And I will also justify that by saying they didn't have another guy. When Trey was off the court, like you could argue it still might have been, it was one of their better options to just let Jalen both do it for growth and for just trying to score some points because he's one of the most talented players. But it's a young guy thing. So I love Jalen. He's not particularly efficient for what he should be at this point. Like as an overall scorer, his efficiency numbers are not where you are hoping they're going to be in this year or next year or the year after that. Like last season, he had 57% true shooting. That's not awful. That's league average, almost exactly. But for a guy with his physicality and his athleticism and his game, he shouldn't be league average in true shooting. That shouldn't be where he is. Right. Now, there basically were 2 reasons for that. And you already brought up one of them, which is 3-point shooting. Last year, he shot 31.2% from 3. His shooting is a question. I think he's better than that. I do.
Oh, you too.
Yep. Where he goes, we don't know yet, but I think he's better than that. And, the last 3 seasons since he actually became a real rotation player, it's about 33-ish% over the last 3 years. That's still probably below where you want it to be. It's better than 31. But that's one area where his efficiency is going to have to rise. And the other one was the floater range, like when he doesn't get all the way to the rim. So when he gets all the way to the rim, he shot 72% at the rim last year, according to Cleaning the Glass. That is very, very, very good. Like that, other than, especially for a non-center, that's an elite number. That's a great number. Not surprising, right? Jalen's a great athlete. He dunk on guys, all those things. It was when he didn't quite get all the way there. And there were a lot of times when he didn't do that. He'd stop in that floater range, take that kind of like that 2 dribble, like kind of half floater where he kind of go off the glass and do an angle. He could do that. But in the end, again, it's Cleaning the Glass. He shot 37% from floater range last year. For example, for comparison's sake, Trae Young is like the most consistent floater shooter in the history of the NBA. Literally every year, he's between 45 and 47% on floater range shots. Every year. We'll get to that when we get to Trae. That's 10% higher almost than Jalen was. That shouldn't be happening. Jalen Johnson shouldn't be shooting 37% from 5 to 12 feet. That shouldn't be happening. So those are the 2 areas I have confidence, Glenn. Both of those are going to come up maybe as soon as this season. But if we're looking to see like why was Jalen not particularly efficient last year? Well, there it is. 3-point shooting and those like times where he stops short of the rim and tries to do more of like a more of a finesse, more of a craft shot. He isn't great at those just yet.
Yeah.
The NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer that you absolutely do not want to miss. And right now, if you are a new customer with FanDuel, bet just $5, you get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's right. Pick a bet right now, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. FanDuel is great in so many different ways. One reason is that it actually fits however you like to bet on sports, whether it's player props, parlays, same game parlays perhaps, straight bets, whether it's point spreads, over-unders, money lines, etc. They have futures, even live betting as the action unfolds. It makes watching football or basketball or baseball even more exciting when you have a little bit something extra riding on the action. They have all sports you can think of across the board, football to the NBA, of course, we're talking about all the time on this podcast. Plus they have baseball, they have hockey, golf, tennis, soccer, both domestic leagues, international leagues, etc. They have F1, they have NASCAR, boxing, MMA, and so much more. Whether you're a casual fan or a just someone who loves loving the stats, perhaps, FanDuel makes it the whole gaming experience so much better for you. FanDuel is quick, it's easy, and they are fast to pay out when you win. It's the best possible way to add a little bit more energy to your game days. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app and get started today.
That's the other, definitely the part of this game to kind of break down a little bit is you love that, like, okay, when he gets the ball in space, paint touch is what they're looking for, right? This is just me. What I feel like I see is Jalen's looking for a pass first, right? And NBA coaches want the team to move the ball, right? They're like, don't hold it, don't overpossess it, move the ball. So it's great that he's buying into that. But there are times when you see him kind of heading towards the paint, and there's a 6'3" shooting guard, that's low man. And it's like, no, Jalen, just go, hammer that right, go straight to the rim and hammer that home. They're not gonna be able to kind of keep you off the rim. But the other thing that I talk about a lot, people probably maybe get a little tired, is that you can't ask a player to have develop a different personality than they have. Jalen is a facilitator. Jalen wants to share the basketball. Jalen wants to create shots for other people, right? But he has something that really no one else in this roster has. Onyeka has a little bit of it, a little bit of ability to kind of create for himself and get to the rim himself. But his vertical skill, his first step is dynamic with the basketball. And really, there aren't that many defenders that should be able to kind of keep him off the rim. But he'll get to the rim, say 2 steps from the rim, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go to a finesse finish. And it's like, Jalen, man, just hammer that stuff.
Don't do that.
Just hammer that stuff. But at the same time, he hasn't played a ton. And what you hope is that they're helping him realize, when you see this, just go straight to the rim. If they have to foul you, put you on the free throw line or whatever, in those sorts of situations. And so I want to see less of the finesse finishes, and I want to see more aggressiveness. I want to see him realize what he can do with his athleticism and burst and verticality and those things, because the little kind of stepping around a small forward at the rim and kind of missing that, the layup that's there or whatever, it's like, I want him to swing way towards just being super, super, super aggressive, right? But I also think I could see where that might not feel supernatural to him, because he wants to look for the pass. He wants to create a great shot for someone else, those things. And so it's maybe helping him have a process to, like, Jalen, you're the only one who can do that, and so let's get you doing that more, while not criticizing him for, there's a guy open in the corner. Yeah, make that wide open the corner. Yeah, you want that corner, wide open corner 3.
Right.
And so it takes reps and process and sort of order of operations for that. But I want to see him just be a beast at the rim in the half court. He obviously has that mastered in transition, done deal, right? He's there. But in the half court, I want to see less of the finesse finish. I want to see less of finishing around a defender, and I want him to kind of just look like a guy that goes, you can't keep me off the rim. I'm just going to go hammer it. I'm just going to hammer this dunk. I'm going to posterize you. And again, doesn't seem to kind of be what personality he carries, but getting him to kind of manufacture a hunger for using all of that skill in a more impactful way. I think that's the other part of him getting to the all-star level.
Yeah, and you don't want to coach it out of him, and they love the fact that he likes to pass. Like that's part of the appeal of Jalen, is that he's a good passer, he likes to pass. And you don't want to coach that out of him, but you're right, there's that happy medium that I think he's going to find it. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. But another way that it manifests is that he's only averaging, I have it in front of me, sorry, I lost it. Oh, here it is. He was only averaging 3.5 free throw attempts per game last year. Now it's gone up every year. That's encouraging. It keeps going up. But this is the kind of guy, if he is going through people, they're going to have to foul him, and he'll be getting to the line. He should be getting to the line 5-6 times a game. But that should be where he is.
Yeah, against weaker defenses, it might be
right.
10, 12, 14, right? So
that's one area also where you can boost your efficiency. Like, he's not a fantastic free throw shooter, but he's improved there too. He shot 75% last year. That's totally fine. If you're getting to the line, that's a very efficient. He's not at the level where like you're worried about his free throw shooting. Like, if you're making 75% of your free throws, getting in the line every time you get there is a positive outcome for the offense. You're averaging 1.5 points per trip. Fantastic. You love that. So, by the way, his usage rate and his assist rate, I want to ask you about that in a second, have gone up every year of his career, which I think makes sense. Like, he's been asked to do more. He's been allowed to do more. We saw that last season. I gave the number already about his assists per game, being one of the 5 guys who did that, but he averaged 5 assists per game. That was top 40 in the NBA last year. A guy playing power forward every minute he's playing.
Yep.
Top 10 in the league among front court players in assists.
Yep.
And basically, he's the only one that I could find that's not like the clear number 1 option that's up there. Like, obviously, Jokic, number 1 option. Giannis, number 1 option. Sabonis, number 1 option a lot of the time, more so than Jalen. Yep. Şengün, more so than Jalen's been doing that role. Like, all the guys who are front court players that are up that high in assists have the ball more than Jalen does, generally. So the passing is a real thing, and you don't want to get rid of that. We're not saying that. I know you're not saying that either. It's just that you have to kind of have the light go off, and I think it's probably just reps, honestly. It's like getting comfortable being the guy. And not that this matters too much to me and you, but as far as like the star thing, he averaged 19 points a game last year while not shooting well from 3, while not shooting well from floater range, while not getting the line a ton. Like, the fact that he could do what he was doing last year and average 19 points a game means that he could probably get to 25, like with a couple little tweaks. You know what I mean? Probably not 30, but like there's a lot in here already. Like, there's a star level profile on this offense. I do have my one negative stat that we can offer, but I want you to respond to that because it is a unique package of things that he can bring. Yeah. The ball handling as a power forward, the passing as a power forward, the creation ability. A lot of that's still transition more than half court. But it is a really interesting medium that he has to find. I'm sure they know that. They don't want to tell us that on the record. I'm sure Quinn would knows what they want him to do differently sometimes. Yeah. But it's just trying to find that little the avenue that you want him to go down.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think the passing is high level first position. The only time you'll see it's just because he didn't have a ton of reps is there's a second defender kind of shading the passing lane. Did he see that the second defender kind of shading the passing lane? That's just a matter of experience. I don't think it's because he's not smart or whatever. It's just it's reps.
Yes,
it's experience. It's all that sort of stuff. And so I think leading into that a lot as well. But for him to get to 25 points a game, that's 4 more free throws a game. Shooting 35, 36% from the 3-point line at least, right? And then just attacking the rim with his full set of talent and skill a lot more. And that it wouldn't take anything for him to get to 25 points a game. Like the spacing that Porzingis is going to provide, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard, and on and on and on, right? I mean, I don't think people realize that Dyson shot 38% or better, 4 or 6 months of the season. You go look at on Basketball Reference at how many months he shot the ball. Now the volume wasn't high, right? And until it got a little more across the season, and Ricochet shot the ball. So this team has a lot of shooting, and that should really open up driving lanes and attacking for Jalen to just attack the rim. To me, that's all he gets to 25. If that's some games they're going to foul me when I'm at the rim, I'm going to make my free throws, right? In other cases, I'm going to beat the defender to the rim and get. So to me, getting him to 25 a game is just about getting him wired in the right way to really lean into his strengths. And I don't know why any of us would think that that's something he can't do.
A lot of people can't even name their financial accounts or even what they are worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. If you have the full picture, you actually leave money on the table. And that is why Monarch Money should be coming into your life. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, either on your laptop or on your phone. And Monarch is built for people like me with busy lives, quite honestly. If you've been putting off organizing your finances for a long time, Monarch is definitely for you. They do the heavy lifting for you at Monarch Money. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet yourself. For me, I linked all my accounts together to Monarch Money and immediately spied some easy costs to get rid of. Cancel those commitments alone, saving money each and every month. You can maximize your investments, increase your savings rates, easily review your finances with your financial advisor, even with your partner, and generally keep a clear review of your financial health, both in the short term and in the long term. Do not let a financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA. I kind of want to ask you the same question I did about the defense, about like where he can improve. We did a little bit of that already in this conversation, kind of organically, so you don't have to go through the whole thing again. You know, his turnover rate, you mentioned it briefly there, was up a little bit last year. It was probably too high for where you'd want it in the role that he had. Yeah. That's one. Here's a stat that I've been teasing. This is according to Clean the Glass last season. The Jalen on and Trey off. So basically Jalen as the primary option lineups last year. In the half court, the Hawks had a 7th percentile offensive rating.
Yep.
Now, that's not all on Jalen. This has been a Trey off the court problem for years. We're not picking on Jalen. Right. But that did not work. Jalen as the primary with very little other help is not probably their best option offensively. Now, when Jalen went out, you referenced this earlier, Dyson took on a lot more of that. They brought in Nikhil. He'll do some of that. They brought in Kennard. He'll do some of that. And now they'll actually have Jalen, hopefully for the full season, to kind of boost some of those numbers too. So they're better set up for it now. But I'm sure you see this too. I will always see, well, just get the ball to Jalen and get out of the way kind of sentiment. And I think it's clear that we like Jalen by this conversation. Maybe he's ready for that this season. We don't know. He hasn't been ready for that in the half court to this point. Yep. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been interesting to see what they're running come the preseason games. You know, completely different personnel. It's kind of funny. I've been doing video breakdowns to the Patreon. I got another one ready to go on Sunday. But you know, when Bud was here, they ran what they call 4 or 4C for Millsap all the time. Sometimes they'd run it for Horford, but it's Millsap all the time. They ran that. I could found one example of them running that last year. It was an ATO, and it was Dyson in that role running that. So it was interesting. Like, I totally forgot that they ran one of these, you know. But I think that's something that if Jalen had been healthy, they might have done more of that. Like, his back to the basket. You got cutters on the weak side and take advantage of that. So I'm interesting to see if they run that. Porzingis can do that all day. Like, Porzingis can run that all day long.
You'll probably see that at some point with him, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and then Anyaka as well. But Porzingis, the height that he has, the length he has to kind of really simplify the passing angle. But will we see Jalen kind of playing with his back to the basket more? Or will we see him like, oh, you know, he has a footwork to kind of get into a spin move and pin his defender, you know, it kind of gets, you know, it's going to be interesting, some of that nuance of playing with the ball in his hands, if it looks different in scheme and just different kind of what they're positioning him to do. But for people who are like, just give Jalen the ball and get out of the way, that's not how NBA teams run their offense generally.
No.
You know, that's not what they do. Now, late shot clock or whatever, throw it to your best player and generation, you know, that kind of thing. But Quinn is like, move the ball. You got a good shot. Is there a better shot? You know, pass to the guy in the corner, whatever it might be. And the Hawks, you know, buy into that. But they, you know, Trey was like the only, you know, Dyson made a lot of progress as a kind of, I don't say fake point guard or, you know, stand-in point guard is a better way to talk about it. We talked about that with his episodes of Floater and all that sort of stuff. But man, they have so much more experience offensively in the backcourt on this team. And that really, like I said, if that lets them simplify what the number of things they're asking Jalen to do, but you know, he has a good handle. He has a great first step. He should be tough to deal with, even playing with back to the basket in the mid post or wherever it might be, and even kind of, you know, forcing a double team to kind of, they forced a switch. There's this, you know, a guard on him down there in the mid post. You got to send a second defender to him. Can he read that, pass out, kind of create that great shot on the side of the floor? So I mean, to our point, like before Jalen got hurt, he was running the second unit offense as a power forward, as an inexperienced player running any of that stuff. Dyson Dyson works so hard and he's so committed to getting better, that he showed progress across the season. But I'm looking forward to seeing Jalen just kind of being unleashed and in a different way this year. But also trying to kind of reserve judgment until I've seen 2 or 3 preseason games. And they're running some of this. They didn't run that last year,
I was almost tempted to ask you to wait on this one and do it later. But then I realized I'm going out of the country and it would have been logistically difficult. But no, for that reason, because we just haven't seen Jalen play in a while. Like, that's the thing. Like, all these other guys, we saw them play in April. We didn't see Jalen. We haven't seen Jalen since January. And also, people know this by now, but the Hawks just have more talent now around him, like around everybody. Like, I know what I will say, we shouldn't discount that DeAndre Hunter in November and December last year was like unconscious. And that's when Jalen was playing. So they had another guy who was scoring a lot of points with Trey and Jalen and DeAndre.
But the unfortunate part for DeAndre is once Jalen went down, other teams were defending him with DeAndre with power forwards, and DeAndre couldn't do anything with it.
Right. And I bring that up because now they have Porzingis, who's an established NBA scorer. You got more ball handling. You got another year of Ricochet. I think we all assume he's going to be a year better, a year more experienced, a year more confident, more assertive, etc. It's a better situation. There also might be nights where he takes a few less shots. Like he played a lot of minutes per game. Like he was like up in the top 10 of minutes per game when he went down. Will he be there again? Maybe. He's kind of the one guy on the team that's like him and Trey don't really have replacements on this team. But no, look, I would project him to be what he was last year plus 10%, that kind of thing. Like hopefully he's more efficient. I think if I was a betting man, I would take the over on his efficiency numbers from last year. 2-point shooting, 3-point shooting, true shooting, all the way across the board. He isn't going to suddenly be, Jokic efficiency wise, but I think that better than league average with better surrounding. This is the same thing with Trey. We'll get to when we get to talk about Trey. Your star players, if you have more spacing around them and more guys who are threats, your star players directly benefit from that because they have more space and less attention on them. That's more of it's more of a talking point with Trey, but it applies to Jalen too. Like if Jalen's playing with Porzingis instead of Capella, who God knows we love Capella. Capella's under the rim. Porzingis might be 35 feet from the rim, and there's nobody there. And Jalen could just go one-on-one and blow by somebody and finish.
There's 2 centers that do that. It's Brook Lopez and Kristaps Porzingis that stand two full steps behind the 3-point line.
And he's the ultimate example. I mean, today as we're recording this, honestly was laughing about the unicorn distinction talking about Porzingis, and basically it's like, yeah, he's the original one of those. So that's only one player. But on Yeka's development, even after Jalen went down, he's a different player. Hopefully, a better player now than when Jalen was last playing. Yeah. The infrastructure is better, and that should just only help Jalen. He may take fewer shots sometimes, but he'll be more efficient on those shots. I'm looking forward to it, man. This is year 1 of a 5-year contract. That's a fantastic deal. Everybody in the league is like, whoa, what a great contract that is. He could be an all-star this year. If the Hawks win enough games, I mean, there's no reason he couldn't be. Am I crazy? I mean, he should be right there.
No. I mean, it's doable. Part of him getting there is him having a personal hunger to want to put up the numbers, make the impact, increase his impact, unleash more of his ability. I love his selflessness. I love his team-mindedness. And obviously the Hawks are trying to really emphasize that within their culture. But Jalen's the one guy, Trey is Trey. Like no one can do what Trey does, right? And we'll talk about Trey, when we get to Trey. But there are a number of things that a coach, I can imagine a coach looking at Jalen, Jalen, you're the only person on the team that can do this thing,
and there are several of those things
over and over and over, right? Just attack the rim, attack the paint, put pressure on the defense, get the defense rotating, and if the pass is the right play, make the right pass. But just that ability, that first step, having so much burst in that first step, and to collapse a defense, that's really just what I want to see him doing over and over and over and over and over. But it is a little about okay, we can't rewire your brain, but you're the only one who can do this thing and this thing and this thing. Let's lean into that stuff. And like I said, I could see where it would be an adjustment period. It might feel a little unnatural for him to be a little selfish, in a healthy sense, But to me, that's the difference between him becoming an all-star and him maybe not quite getting there because it's just, and hopefully his teammates around him like, Jalen, yeah, just go, man, go, go, go do your thing, And if he's hearing that enough, consistently enough, he's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go start, being.
I think he will hear that. By the way,
yeah.
I think he will hear that. I think even last year, the way the guys, not to overuse Trey, the way that Trey talks about Jalen, the way that Quinn loves Jalen, loves Jalen. People forget this maybe. Jalen was behind AJ. The minute Quinn got hired, that flipped.
That changed. Yep.
Yeah. Quinn immediately identified, why are we not using this guy more with Jalen Johnson? And that's grown and grown and grown. And Quinn's, of course, in charge of pressing the buttons. But no, there is a good selfishness. I think people that listen to us would probably guess you and I are we really like unselfish basketball players, in general. But also, there is a certain level of selfishness, and I don't say that in a negative way, that a star little guy just has to have. You just have to operate that way sometimes when you have to think, you know what, our best thing as a team right now is for me to shoot and me to do this. Yeah. And that will be because not because it's me, but because it's the best for the team, but also because I know I'm the best player at this point in time. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's give and take you have to have at the highest level.
Yeah, and coaches sometimes are funny with them. They might call it more assertiveness instead of self.
Sure.
They might pick a more a word that feels better to Jalen,
right?
Besides selfishness. But I mean, to me, it's like for if the Hawks are going to get a second All-Star this year. I mean, first of all, I'm not going to put it past Dyson to make an All-Star team. I'm just not.
Right? It's funny. And Porzingis is the same thing. If Porzingis had a fully healthy Porzingis season, he can make the All-Star team. He's done it before. He's another guy who's capable of doing that. So
yeah. But Jalen is the guy that with the right encouragement, with the right messaging, with the right words to get him to kind of buy into just being more assertive and deploying his dominance more regularly. And if they can do that in a way that feels good and natural to him, he could be a perennial all-star if they can get him doing that stuff. And I think the Hawks are so lucky to have him. They're really, really lucky to have him. They're really lucky he fell on that draft. They're really lucky that teams had questions about, I guess, his pre-professional kind of bouncing around from program to program and those sorts of things. But he clearly has the makeup, the mindset, the selflessness that the Hawks want in players. But he also needs to become the exception where he's like, okay, the assertiveness has got to get ratcheted way up for me to really make a bigger impact. And that's the thing I am most excited for this season, to see if that's something that he buys into and demonstrates, because I think that would really move the needle for the Hawks.
I agree. And that there's that angle of it. There's the more clear cut stuff of just making more shooting better. There's different things you have to look at with Jalen, but I think we are definitely in agreement that he has the potential to be an all-star and an all-star many times. This is a big year for him staying healthy. It's a big year for him with the Hawks taking hopefully another leap. Last year was kind of he was in the most improved player conversations. Ironically, his teammate won the award, but he was going to be in the thing again if he had stayed healthy. And that probably won't happen again. I wouldn't guess, because he did kind of do it already, but hey, maybe he's got another jump in him. So if he shocks us and scores 27 a game, that's that would do it. That would raise some ceilings for everybody involved. But no, you're right. It's a huge, I keep saying it in different ways, ranking draft picks or going back through, and it's man, Jalen at number 20 overall, that's the kind of pick that can just cover up a lot of sins too. You could miss on some stuff, and if you get an all-star at 20. Yeah, I mean, he's literally the best pick they could have made. I've said this on a recent show, but if you go through that draft, he is by far the best player on the board when they picked, and he's the guy they picked. So that's usually nice when you do that.
And last thing I'll say is the things we're talking about is the difference between the Hawks being a top 10 offense and being a top 5 offense. Jalen taking that step is the difference between being top 10 and being top 5, and that's a big difference.
And also, this is a different conversation, but also, we get the question, I'm sure you get it too, can this version, this core, win a championship? And my answer is always yes, but it'll be very hard. But one of the pathways of doing that is that somebody other than Trey has to become a star. And Jalen's the most likely candidate to do that.
Right. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. And then once again, the other high-level defenders they have on this roster now, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a really, really good defender. I think Ricochet takes a step in that area as well this year. And so, I mean, going back to Dyson for a second, I'm just so impressed by like what the burden he shouldered like after Jalen got. I mean, he did so much for the team. Everything. And didn't really miss games, and like he just did so much, and that has in that way, okay, you just generate so much respect from your teammates by just working and working and working and working, and that's what they value. And like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if Dyson makes an all-star team the next few years, at all. But Jalen is the guy that could elevate them to a top 3-4 offense in the league if he really buys into deploying the dominant skills that he has, contextualized in a way that feels natural to him a bit, and those things. But that's his growth, his improvement, his consistency is going to have a lot to do with top 10 offense, top 5 offense, whatever it might be. It's going to have a lot to do with that outcome.
Yep, and outcome of the whole team, because he also is, as we talked about earlier, great defensively and a lot of impact. So Jalen Johnson, fun player. I know everyone in Hawksland is looking forward to having Jalen back, both because everyone roots for the guy, but also because he helps everybody else out. It's been a long time. He'll be back on the floor soon, and people will be excited to watch him, I'm sure, in his first, again, year 1 of a 5-year extension. He's going to be a Hawk for a very long time, I would suspect. All right, Glenn, thank you for doing this. We've done an hour, as we always seem to do. Anything you'd like to plug? I know you mentioned your Patreon. Please plug that. That's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, great. Now that I'm back home, we talked about it before, but I was down helping a family member post-surgery for a while, so that went on pause. But got some new stuff coming out this weekend there. ATL 29. I think Kevin's traveling a little bit maybe right now, and so we get the 3 of us available again. I'm looking forward to watching the first preseason game here in 3 weeks or whatever how far it is from now.
It's coming. It's coming, man. It's coming fast. And then talking about what we're seeing there. So the season's almost here. For all the people who are both Hawks and Falcons fans, hopefully the Hawks can bring some sweet relief to the Atlanta fandom. We are recording this before Hawks Commanders. It's going to go up after that. So Falcons Commanders. We don't know how that's going to go. I hope it goes well, but it's the Falcons, man. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the Hawks have a seriously good roster, and I'm excited for this season. And the whole concept of can they win a championship? Winning a championship is hard all the time, it's a very, very hard thing to do. But I do feel like the field in the East is wide open. Injuries are part of that. For key teams that were really, really good last year. But it really is about consistency. I mean, the teams that win a lot of games are the teams that play at a high level consistently, and so that's kind of the thing to look for. But I'm looking forward to the X's and O's, the scheme changes, new stuff that's in that area, and kind of breaking that down over on ATL and 29, and even doing some video from it on my Patreon as well.
Follow Glenn. Once again, sir, I appreciate all the time. We are almost there, and I will not bug you for as long as you'd like to not be bugged. I appreciate all the time that you give me on this podcast. Yeah. It's always fun. As for everybody else, please, again, subscribe to all Glenn's content. Follow ATL 29. Follow Glenn's Patreon. Follow this podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Locked On Hawks, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. And we'll see everybody next time.